Are we the 51st state of America? Or do you want to be the 51st state of America? Listen, there's a lot of turmoil around the world right now. We've just had that assassination of that political activist guy in the United States, that Charlie Kirk. And I've seen some of his stuff. Look, it really depends which side of the political divide you are. He had some good points. I'm sure he had some points I just didn't disagree with, or I did disagree with, I should say. But fundamentally, somebody's just had their life taken away from them. A wife has lost her husband, children have lost their father for somebody who's decided to assassinate somebody just for talking to people and engaging with people and offering different points of view, whether you like that or not. I mean, it just seems absolutely insane. But I hark back to a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and I made a video about all the protests here in the UK and everything like that. And it never ceases to amaze me, the kind of ridiculous things that people say sometimes, whether they mean it or not, or how ridiculous it sounds to me. So the protests a lot, you're talking about illegal immigration and things like that, but you'll always get people within those crowds who, let's face it, do talk a load of old nonsense. So a couple of people, I mean, whoever was doing the interviewing, was saying, yeah, we want to be under Trump's control. We want Trump to come to this country, take over this country, and, we want to be another state of the United States. You're like going, what are you talking about? Do you actually want to be the 51st state of America? There's a great song about this. If you're a New Model Army fan from back in the day, years ago, one of my favourite bands of all time, big shout out to them. They had a great song about this. And it's insanity to me that you would want another country, another head of state of another country to come and take over this country. And, that's, for me, that's almost tantamount to kind of treason. That's almost thinking you're betraying your own country. You want somebody else, another nation, somebody else from another country, while you're protesting about illegal immigrants. You want an immigrant to come in, not even an immigrant, somebody from another country, to take over our country. I mean, that just seems absolutely bonkers to me. Bonkers thinking, and just so way off the point. Look, the point is, we are, as a country, as all countries, you're always going to be influenced by other countries, and you're going to have sort of political allegiances in terms of nations being allied to other nations, right? And the UK has been heavily allied with the United States for many, many years. And yes, whilst there sometimes there are stronger times, sometimes there are weaker times, depends on who's in power. Right now, I would imagine it's a slightly weaker time because Trump is in power in the United States and Keir Starmer is over here. But there's always going to be that strong relationship, as they like to call it, the political elite like to call it, between the UK and United States. But I wouldn't suggest that it's that strong. I wouldn't suggest it's ever that strong. We probably like to think that we are, in terms of any kind of ally with the United States. We speak the same language. Hey, how different can we be? Well, there's a lot of differences. And then one of the big differences is our general attitude towards life, towards the society, for a start. And just, I lived in the United States for a number of years, for a few years, I should say. I lived there. There is a massive difference. And there's massive differences from state to state, in fact, from city to city. And within their own state, there are massive differences in attitudes, in cultures, in society things as well, or aspects. So, to then try and compare UK to the United States, well, we're vastly different. And the way we do things, our humour is completely different. The way we talk about things is different. Our disassociation with religion from politics is totally, is different for a start. The Americans wear their religion on their sleeves a lot more as a generalization, whereas the UK doesn't, as a generalization, regardless of what side of the aisle you tend to sit on in terms of political aisle. So there are lots of differences. There are lots of similarities between our countries, but there are lots of differences. But we are allies at some point, and sometimes that alliance is strengthened, sometimes it is weakened. But essentially, it's always there. But to say that, we are the same, or to even think that we are the same, and what goes on over there should be happening over here, totally different. We have a totally different history. We have a totally different way of looking at things. I just despair when I hear, things from certain people out there. They say, oh, we should be another control of the United States. We should be the 51st state. What they're doing, what happens in the United States, we should be doing. Because there's this strong movement right now to go towards the right, move towards right. It's not only in this country, in the UK, and obviously in the United States, but also all over Europe. There's been a strong feeling that, or a strong movement towards the right recently. Nationalism pride, nationalist pride. Whether you agree with that or not, that's not what this video is about. It's more about an acknowledgement that it's there, and there are some ideologies, there are some arguments that hold water, right? You can understand that. There are some ideologies, some theories, and some sort of things to discuss on the left, from the left persuasion, that you think, yeah, okay, that holds water as well. Especially if you're, like most people in society, that you're kind of down the middle. You have a little bit of right and you have a little bit of left within you, right? And that's, I would say that for most countries, most people just want to live in peace. Most people just want to, get up, have they got a job, can they support their family, that kind of thing. And then if they got anything left over, and able to enjoy a bit of leisure time with their friends, with their family, whatever it is, right? And that's pretty much the world over. Whilst the Americans are going through their own turmoil right now, and obviously political assassinations aside, just because what they're doing over here there doesn't mean that we have to adopt it over here. And just because, we think it's working over there, then doesn't mean it's working over here. You got to kind of, I think sometimes I get the impression that people are just reading stuff on social media or on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever it is, Instagram, Twitter especially, and they think, oh yeah, this is absolutely what's working. And we know that social media fuels a lot of crap right now, and it fuels a lot of misinformation and a lot of fake news, let's say. But that's not just from the left, that's also from the right. Regardless of what your political aspiration is, what you believe, there's a lot of people who are banging the drum and they're giving you false information. And I just hope that people just open their eyes and open their ears and try and scratch beneath the surface a little bit of whatever you're being told, or whatever people are telling you, and say, it's right to ask questions. I feel it's right that people should be allowed to ask questions and to be able to question what is going on in society, or what's going on in your area. If you've got a problem with illegal immigration, and you want to ask questions, well, you shouldn't be labelled a racist just because you want to ask questions, or you shouldn't be cancelled from the TV or from social media or whatever it is. Does cancel culture even really exist anymore, right? But the guy, the TV celebrity here in the UK that's got a bit of a backlash because he sort of questioned what was going on, with the illegal immigration in this country. What are we doing with it? You're just asking questions. And so all of a sudden that the media, the left-wing leading media, just kind of they're going to dismiss him now, cancel him because of that. You could see the host of the TV program sort of squirming as he was saying what he was saying. It's just as if it's something bad, as if there's something bad that he's saying, and it's just questioning. So we should be able to question, regardless of what side, political persuasion you are. You should be able to ask questions and question whatever the status quo is. Certainly you should be asking questions whatever your government is doing, whatever they're saying. And just because you're being fed something, it doesn't mean that it's the truth, whether from politicians, whether from the media, or whoever it is. That's the problem. People are so easily led and so easy to latch on to ideologies of certain people or certain media outlets or from social media that they stop really thinking for themselves, and you start wondering, well, where are we all going? We're all just sheep that we're just following in this direction. Let's not forget, we have Brexit in this country, and I always say, because people say, oh, we shouldn't have left, we should have left, it's a good thing, it's not a good thing, look at the mess we're in now, all that kind of stuff, right? I was said right from the very word go, and I said right when it was happening, where we're having the referendum, I said, don't believe either side, because either side is feeding you a pack of lies, and they were. Both sides were feeding us truths, mistruths, misdirection, And it was all sorts of nonsense, and nobody's really been ever held accountable for this. The campaign on both sides to take us out of Europe was flawed, was completely flawed. Now, regardless of what your feelings are of Brexit and what your feelings are of coming out of the European Union and what the repercussions have been afterwards, or whether we've improved as a nation or not, one thing leads to another, right? One thing always leads to another. So we're in this situation, this summer of discontent in my last podcast, which I talked about. And it's, of protests, legal immigration protests. And it's ramping up. It's ramping up not only for that, but it's ramping up in sort of nationalism. It's ramping up in other things. Just be wary of this. I talked about this in a previous podcast, where the pendulum can swing from far left to centre to just asking questions and speaking on specific issues, let's say illegal immigration, to all of a sudden it's swinging all the way to like, we want to get rid of all the foreigners and all that kind of stuff, and it just being totally the wrong message and the wrong thing that people should be involving themselves in. There's a big protest coming in London this tomorrow the 13th, and who knows how it's going to be like. But, it will be nothing like what happens in the United States. There should be no issues in this country about, having that. And it should be all peaceful. Hopefully it should be all peaceful. You should never have confrontations in these places. But usually people on both sides, the agitators, they always seem to, try and muddy the waters all the time. But in this country, we are or should not be a copy of any other country. We should not be copying what other countries do, and other countries shouldn't be copying what we do. If there's one thing that we have in this country, from whatever background you're from, whether you're from an immigrant family or whether your family is, you can trace them back through centuries and centuries to this country. It's regardless. You live in this country, so you have an identity within this country. So the last thing we should be doing as a nation is trying to adopt what goes on in another country, because it might work for them. It might work in the United States, but it won't work here. Just be careful. And I always say this, and I hate it when people say it, but I will say it. Be careful what you wish for, because if you want to be the 51st state of America, guess what? You'll have a lot more problems that we've currently got now, and things will only get worse. If you're modeling any kind of society or what goes on in the United States, all I would say is, give your head a wobble and think again, because what we've got over here is far better than some things some things, not all things. Some things are great in the United States, don't get me wrong. But some societal issues that go on in the United States, you do not want here whatsoever. And there could be agitators making some things out to be a lot worse than they actually are. What we need is more unity. What we need is more people coming together and having open discussions. At least having open discussions with each other, and not trying to smack each other down just for having differences of opinion. Coming together and having discussions, and right discussions, and a lot of this has got to be from the government as well of the day, just having open discussions with the public, and just listening to what the public are saying, and not just sort of bending over backwards to help just one section of community or a certain section of community, whatever section that is. Okay, it doesn't make any difference. If you want, we should be living in equal society. Certainly here in the UK, it isn't equal. There's always going to be differences, but fundamentally there should be equality out there, and equality in justice, and equality of attitudes, and equality in policy as well. But the first thing that needs to be done is good, effective communication from those powers that be, and then everybody is talking with each other. And you would find that people talk to each other a lot more. You probably wouldn't be protesting as much, and you probably would be getting things resolved, and there'd be greater understanding amongst all parties, and you'd be able to resolve things a lot better. Hey, I want to say that all I can say is this 51st state thing from the United States that I heard the other day. I'm hoping it's not a thing. I think that people are not serious about this kind of stuff, or serious about this thinking. The whole MAGA thing from the United States worked for them in terms of their supporters, but that kind of thing, make make GB great again, or the UK great again. Well, we always are great. This country is a great country. They got so many issues, so many things that could be improved, just like anything. But fundamentally, we're still a really good country to live in. I believe that. I sincerely believe that. But obviously, there are issues that need to be openly discussed. And just because you want to openly discuss them doesn't mean that you should be labelled as anything at the same time. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, just keep on watching the videos and podcasts that'll be coming out as well. But 51st State of America, no thank you. Right, catch you again. Bye now.